So, put down the pumpkin spice latte, put down the tofu, put down all of the rabbit food, and go to Hooters and get yourself a cold beer, some chicken wings, and a good looking waitress or five.
So hello everyone, once again from the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. And today we have a very fun one. And for those of you who don't use Twitter, you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. You haven't seen the guy we're going to talk about. You haven't seen the tweets of the legendary Nick Adams. But don't worry, we're going to talk about Nick Adams. We're going to talk about his tweets. We're going to talk about who even is this guy. And is this actually some sort of like very, very long form satire of American conservatism? Because it feels like such a joke. It feels like if I was trying to satirize American conservatives, I wouldn't even write stuff like this. But it appears in some ways Nick Adams is fairly serious, but also he is a massive grifter who is really using the Trump era to promote these books he's written and promote his own like celebrity. And I believe maybe he is playing into it a bit because in some of his videos, I think you can see him almost laughing at what he's saying because it is so stupid. But also the underlying sentiment is, even though this guy is grifting and might not hold the political positions he claims to hold, at the same time, he's still doing very real damage to America and the world by advocating for these far-right conservative politics, even if it is just to enrich himself. But as we've seen with so many people associated with Donald Trump, they don't necessarily believe what Donald Trump believes. Donald Trump doesn't even necessarily believe half the things he says. He just does it to enrich himself. And it feels like this guy is basically trying to imitate his daddy Trump. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look through the best of Nick Adams' tweets. We're going to look at his absolutely bizarre obsession with Hooters, and then we're just going to talk about his work as an author and a political pundit. So before we go any further, please like the video. And just because we're going to be talking about Hooters a lot in this video, didn't think I'd ever say that. Can Americans in the comments let me know, is Hooters actually a good restaurant? Despite obviously the gimmick of women dressing the way they do in Hooters to attract alpha males like Nick, do they do good food? Do they do good drinks? Is it worth actually checking out if I ever go to America? Let me know down in the comments. Also, on the subject of Twitter, come follow me on Twitter as well, at the Kavernacle. I'm actually tweeting at my bestie, Nick Adams. Also, check out my Instagram at the Kavernacle as well. It's where I'm posting about my travels around Asia, and that is all saved in my highlight reel. If you care about that even more, please check out my Patreon, where I'm going to be posting exclusive travel videos. There's already one up. Also, the benefits are getting access to my Discord server and my Nintendo Switch friend code, so go check that out. Also, check out the subreddit and my second channel down in the description. So I don't watch conservative media, so I don't know Nick Adams from anything else. I only know him from Twitter. Now, he has tweeted some absolutely gross things in the past, and I've actually covered some of his tweets before, but he's deleted a lot of these because even for him, trying to be this massive conservative grifter, maybe he realizes they're too far and maybe they don't play as well with the crowd he's even aiming for. Let's start just with some funny tweets from Nick Adams before getting onto the Hooters thing. So if we go on Nick Adams' Twitter, now he has in brackets alpha male. This is a recent thing he's added. Best-selling author endorsed by President Trump, president of One Flag USA, we're going to get to that a bit later, presidential appointee, Australian by birth, American by choice. And also one more question, a further question. Why does America seem to attract the worst Australians and the worst Canadians to be political pundits? So just before we get into his tweet, I love how Nick Adams tweets like conservatives from 2016 and just real like out of touch boomers, the way he talks about like soy lattes and games. So listen to this one. Bible stands for basic instructions before leaving Earth. Like, what the hell? Fortnite stands for nothing. Put down the controller and pick up the book if you ever want your life to have meaning. I absolutely love stuff like this. But like I said, it's even too on the nose for satire. Like, if I was running a conservative satire account, everyone would think this is actually not very good because it's too on the nose. And then here's more stuff like this. Alpha males prefer to spend time with other alpha males. Watching football and playing golf with the boys is the best way to spend Thanksgiving for alpha males. Let the woman cook and the alpha kings will feast when it's ready. So obviously a load of these things are just tied up in very like traditional conservative misogyny. A bad day on the golf course is still better than a normal day with your wife. Fact. Nick, I feel kind of bad for you that you never have had a healthy relationship with women if you think having a bad day playing a boring sport for rich people is still better than spending time with your wife. And sometimes, to be honest, Nick doesn't miss. James Corden is the epitomization of a beta male. I'm calling on all men to engage in a complete and total boycott of James Corden if they weren't already. Nick, I gotta hand it to you there. I hate James Corden as well. Just seems like a terribly unpleasant man. Really entitled. Apparently was always horribly arrogant even before he was famous. Obviously trying to flex. Alpha males pump iron. Now something I noticed on pictures of Nick, if you try and zoom in on them, it's pretty clear, I think, there's some sort of filter on his face that's trying to make him look younger than he is. But again, Nick doesn't always miss. Qatar must be a nation filled with beta males if they ban alcohol from their sporting events. It's an international disgrace that alcohol is banned at the World Cup. What's the point of going if you can't enjoy a couple domestic beers? And honestly, I think he's just studied old Donald Trump tweets because he sound exactly like them. So I can't help that I'm a highly successful, both personally and professionally, extremely inspirational and deeply intelligent alpha male. Those who continue to call on me to apologize will be sorely disappointed. I am not sorry for being an alpha king. Joe Biden puts soy milk in his coffee. Men who drink soy lattes should not be allowed to vote in the US elections. And then one more before we talk about this guy a bit further. I've always believed Elijah Wood was the worst part of the Lord of the Rings films, and now I know why. The trilogy should be re-released with Tim Allen playing Frodo and Mel Gibson playing Samwise. Tolkien is spinning in his grave. So the thing about those tweets is I have seen so many conservatives say stuff exactly like that. And maybe I am giving him too much credit. Maybe I'm thinking too highly of Nick Adams that I think at least like 75% of those tweets are him joking and it's meant to be satire, or it's just meant to draw attention to himself because everyone is like, these are so stupid. How can any reasonable person think these things? Especially the last one about Tim Allen and Mel Gibson starring in the Lord of the Rings, like these two old 60-year-old men just because they're conservative, I guess. All that stuff about soy lattes feels like very like 2015 internet and stuff like that. But then the caveat being, this guy supposedly absolutely loves Donald Trump. If you guys don't believe me, and if you guys don't remember, go read Donald Trump tweets from before his political career. Go read his tweets from like 2012 and 2013. They sound exactly like this guy. So again, let me know down in the comments, do you think this guy is serious? Now, probably the most funny thing, but also hypocritical, because of course, as a conservative grifter, he's really on the stuff about the LGBT community that conservatives are saying at the moment, that they're like sexualizing young people. I find that very bizarre considering what he tweets a lot about. So not only does he tweet a lot about Hooters and how much he loves it, he actually says that young people should also go, and that's a good thing, and they shouldn't be allowed to have drag queen story hour. So let's get into a video of him talking about Hooters. And I think it's pretty clear in some of these that he is nearly laughing because he realizes how stupid what he's saying is.
G'day guys, Nick Adams here. A word about Hooters. Hooters is a wonderful family establishment. And I, for one, am absolutely sick and tired of it being defamed, derided, traduced, and mocked. Used as a tool to stop men being men, used as a tool to stop there being alpha males in our society. Hooters is fantastic. The view is good, the food is good, the drinks are good. If you like food, drink, and a nice view, Hooters is the place for you to be. Alpha males have a history replete with visits to Hooters. In fact, if you haven't been to Hooters, it makes that all that little bit more difficult for you to truly claim alpha male status. So, Put down the pumpkin spice latte. Put down the tofu. Put down all of the rabbit food and go to Hooters and get yourself a cold beer, some chicken wings, and a good looking waitress or five. Enjoy, goodbye, good luck.
You guys let me know. At the end, it seems like he's nearly bursting out laughing because I'm believing that he's playing this character, right? This is so ridiculous to make a stand on that, like, Hooters is so important to American society and American masculinity. Like, I do love this because I love it because I often like people trolling people with this ridiculous stuff. Like, you know, if you're playing video games, you're like worthless, or go drink your soy latte, you know, lazy millennials drinking their pumpkin spice and eating like their rabbit food. They should just eat like a steak and stuff. I like this because people did actually used to talk about this a lot, and it's so stupid. I guess if you're younger, maybe you don't remember the discourse around millennials just like being lazy, eating avocado toast, having man buns and stuff. It very much feels like a throwback to that, and that's why he just feels so out of place with everything he's saying. Because it literally feels like he's been pulled out of 2015 and put in like 2022. That's why I'm so conflicted if it's satire or not, because if it's satire, it's so terrible at satirizing modern conservatism because it feels like it's satirizing older conservatism. But if it's not, this guy is just like an anti-SJW that is perpetually stuck in like 2016 or something. This guy, well, at least this persona he's putting on, is absolutely obsessed with Hooters. He cannot stop tweeting about Hooters, so let's get into this. While your wife is doing the dishes tonight, sneak out and grab a beer at Hooters to watch Kirk Cousins play. She won't mind. Hooters should remain open 24/7, 365 in honor of veterans and truckers everywhere. Yeah, because I'm sure like every single veteran and every single trucker is just like a massive patron of Hooters. Now here is where it gets very bizarre. Take your children to Hooters to counteract any woke drag show nonsense they're being exposed to at school. I thought these guys hated sexualizing young people, and here he's talking about taking your children to an establishment that objectifies women in a sexual way. And then he tweets this. Someone wrote an article, I took my 9-year-old son to Hooters to celebrate good grades. Trolls told me I'm creepy. And then he quote tweeted, I am sick and tired of constant attacks being hurled at good parents for taking their children to Hooters. You will see more skin at the local public pool. Get off your high horse. Okay, so if that's the case, right, if going to Hooters is totally fine for children and parents can make that decision, and apparently good parents would take their children to Hooters, then what is wrong with drag queen story hour? Like, if we see more skin at a public pool than Hooters, well, we definitely see more skin at both those places than a drag queen story hour. So again, why is that a problem and taking children to Hooters is not? Surely if you care about showing children inappropriate things, you would care about this. But as we know, the right are hypocrites. They don't actually care about this stuff. We see all these like conservatives doing like these child beauty pageants and stuff like that. They don't care. They're just using it as like coded language to talk about how much they hate the LGBT community. And they hate anyone who breaks the gender norms. He says, this is disgusting. Link in an article, topless nun performs sexualized burlesque at Dartmouth drag show. So what's the problem with that if you think children should go to Hooters? So another one about a mum blasted for 5-year-old Hooters birthday party. Thank you, ladies. Hooters is 100% a family restaurant that is kid-friendly. I am sick and tired of judgmental losers attacking this mother. She did nothing wrong. People who demonize parents who take their children to Hooters are pathetic. I feel sorry for the children. So like I said, I take this argument a bit more seriously if he wasn't then going to say that drag shows are disgusting. I cannot say that it's fine for children to go to Hooters and it's not even as bad as going to a public pool with them, and then say drag shows are terribly disgusting. Again, although this guy might be memeing, he might be joking, he might be doing satire to draw attention to himself, he's still obviously perpetuating this really dangerous narrative that actually results in very real violence against marginalized groups. So again, whether he believes it or not, he's a disgusting guy, because either he believes it and he's disgusting, or he's grifting off it, and that is just as disgusting in my opinion. So the left hates Hooters because they hate beautiful women. Hooters would make great bowling locations. The best alpha males eat wings and drink beer at Hooters with the boys. Beta males nibble on tapas at Spanish vegan cafes with their wives. I guess I am a beta male because I definitely would go to a Spanish vegan cafe with my girlfriend, but I just love that stereotype so much. Like, apparently what you eat correlates to how masculine you are. I absolutely love this. And do you guys remember that Jacob Wohl guy who used to say, like, he'd overheard Gen Z or millennials at hipster coffee shops talking about how they're wrong about Trump? It seems like this guy was inspired by that. So I was at Hooters tonight having some beer and wings when I overheard the table of alphas next to me complaining about the price of wings under Biden. When Trump was in office, alpha males were able to eat at a Hooters every single week. Now they're struggling to go once a month. That is definitely the real indicator of inflation and a troubling economy if alpha males cannot eat at Hooters every single week. More about this: Donald Trump goes to Hooters because he's an alpha male, and Joe Biden goes to hipster coffee shops because he's a beta male. Again, this guy is absolutely stuck in 2016. He cannot be serious. So that is what Nick Adams is famous for, his insane tweets, right? But if he was just a Twitter account and we couldn't even verify if he was like a real person or like a real conservative, maybe I wouldn't make this video. But he is someone who has been grifting on the conservative circuit for about 12 years, judging by his YouTube channel where he's uploaded videos talking about how great America is. So who is this guy? Who is this Australian guy who loves America so much, is a massive simp for Donald Trump? I was actually reading some Australian media about him, so let's get into this if you're curious. So from Ashfield Pigeons to President Trump's endorsement, the rise of Nick Adams. Mr. Adams, a former Ashfield councillor, motivational speaker on American values, has won warm praise from Trump on Saturday for his recent book, Green Card Warrior. Mr. Trump praised this book as a must-read, following a speech to a joint session of Congress in which he advocated America's switch to an immigration system more like Australia's. Mr. Adams achieved a modicum of local prominence after his 2004 election to Ashfield Council, after which he says he soon became Australia's youngest ever deputy mayor at age of 21. The young Liberal warrior was linked to New South Wales right-wing power broker David Clark, MLC, and drew notice for attacking plans to remove a portrait from the Queen from council chambers, criticising multiculturalism and a bold proposal to cull all of Ashfield's pigeons. This guy sounds weird. In 2009, Mr. Adams was suspended from the Liberals for 6 months for conduct likely to embarrass or cause damage to the party, following an altercation with a Channel 10 journalist, Brett Mason. Mr. Adams' career as a conservative pundit has also taken off, but his third book, the 112-page Green Card Warrior, propelled him to the center of political debate. The book, like his first two, features a full-page portrait of the author on its cover. Mr. Adams writes of a near 5-year wait and a $50,000 bill to immigrate to America, an incredible tale of sabotage he attributes to discrimination by the Obama administration because of his conservative views. Conservatives always playing the victim. Mr. Adams has also created a non-profit, the Foundation for Liberty and American Greatness, to advance his message. Said he chose to immigrate to America because I love guns, hot dogs, chicken fried steak, barbecue, cheerleaders, not creepy, American football, small town parades, beauty pageants, not creepy, pickup trucks, muscle cars, and 16-lane freeways lined up with supersized American flags. None of that sounds very appealing. So yes, Nick Adams is actually a real person. I don't know if any of my Australian viewers have ever heard of him before. It seems like he's just a massive idiot for what he built his political career on. But thankfully for him, the grifting worked. He got the notice of Donald Trump and various conservative outlets. And now let's talk a bit more about him as an author. Perhaps he is a wonderful author. Perhaps he has so much skill as an author. He has a new book coming out called The Most Dangerous President in History about Joe Biden. And you can buy it on Amazon. Thankfully, Daily Caller actually published a tiny bit of the book. So let's read this as well. So this is what Nick Adams wrote. This is in the book, not sure where about. So let's get into his wonderful writing. So President Joe Biden is the most dangerous president and one of the worst, if not the worst president America has ever seen. He is not necessarily an evil man, but the policies he supports and the way he approaches politics are dangerous for America and put us on unsolid ground. Leftists, Renos, and the mainstream media will try and tell you that American nationalism is about race, but it's not. America first and American nationalism, it means putting our country, black, white, Hispanic, Jewish, Catholic, poor, rich, before the goals of NATO, the UN, and the IMF. It means our foreign policy should be primarily aimed at boosting America's economy and protecting our borders from foreign threats. It does not mean sending our brave men and women in uniform to dozens of countries to protect those countries' borders from invasion or attack. Now, this is the sort of rhetoric that, of course, made Donald Trump very popular, but also was a total lie, because Donald Trump did the exact same things that Biden and Obama and all the other presidents have done. Biden wants to ensure that the green movement, which seeks to end all use of fossil fuels and whose economic policies will drive us into literal darkness, is appeased. He wants to just make sure that MSNBC and the New York Times editorial board say nice things about him. In other words, he is not focused on people like you and me. His economic policy is definitely not America first. It is the economic policy of AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren, which ultimately is the economic policy of Karl Marx. That is absolutely hilarious that all of these people together want the economic policies of Karl Marx. Yeah, maybe Bernie Sanders, when he was 20 years old, would. But again, absolutely hilarious to characterize all these people as Marxists. So obviously, like a good grifting conservative, no substance. It's a fan fiction of reality about why Biden is so bad. And the problem is, I would take criticisms of Biden more seriously if then people like this didn't turn around and say, yeah, well, Donald Trump does put America first. When Donald Trump and his crony literally looted the United States in his 4 years in office, literally did so many criminal things. If most normal people did them, they'd be in jail for the rest of their lives. And then he actually stole classified information, probably with the aim of selling it to foreign governments. But then you have to ask yourself the question, does this guy know this is all BS and he's just writing a book to make him money and to enrich himself? Again, with Nick Adams, because he's so ridiculous, it's really, really hard to tell. Because he's ridiculous, it points me more in the direction it is all a grift, or he could just be genuinely like one of the biggest idiots. So Nick Adams also has books like Trump and Churchill, Defenders of Western Civilization, the famous book Green Card Warrior, My Quest for Legal Immigration in an Illegal System. Most of these have like pretty good reviews, but someone who actually worked in immigration left a review with a verified purchase. So Jennifer, about his green card book, uninformative, stupid book from a self-centered writer back in 2017. I rarely write reviews, but no one should waste their time reading this book. It is clear that Mr. Adams is a self-centered individual who has no idea about the US immigration system, nor did he take the time to learn about it. The Vice Consul is not a bastard. He is a diplomat doing his job and implementing US immigration laws. Mr. Adams is just one of thousands of cases, so it's not personal, which undermines the premise of his whole stupid book. Adams doesn't even take the time to walk readers through the different types of immigration, family versus employment, permanent versus temporary, and he does not give any suggestions about how to make it better. I suppose the one takeaway is be careful when dealing with lawyers. Adam's so lazy he did not try to file his own paperwork, which would not have cost him thousands of dollars. Again, do not waste your time reading this horrible book. So honestly, I trust that review of someone who seemingly knows what they're talking about in regards to immigration to the US, rather than all the glowing reviews and Donald Trump endorsing this book. Because immigration to the US is notoriously really, really hard and maybe does cost a lot, I haven't heard too many cases of it costing $50,000. Maybe it does. Let me know in the comments if you're an immigrant to the US. Do you think Nick Adams is lying about this? Or is he just really incompetent that someone probably scammed him out of $50,000 to actually just do his application for him? So just for the last thing, I guess Nick Adams does have a job besides being a very popular author. So he's the CEO and president of FLAG, at One Flag USA, Foundation for Liberty and American Greatness. If you live in America, you won the lottery of life. Let me know down in the comments, Americans, do you think you've won the lottery living in America? So if you click the link on the Twitter, you go onto the page and it says, FLAG is traditional America's #1 educational resource provider. So basically what this has is just like loads of resources you can order about different subjects. If you go on one, critical race theory, how to fight the hateful Marxist poison taking over our schools and indoctrinating our kids, by Nick Adams. You can order that booklet there. If we go on the About page, it says the Foundation for Liberty and American Greatness, also known as FLAG, is a non-profit dedicated to educating Americans about the values and principles that make our nation exceptional. To achieve this mission, FLAG promotes and provides high-quality civics education to K-12 students across the country and impact American culture in a way that preserves our exceptional American value system for generations to come. At FLAG, we believe America is the greatest country in the history of the world. Americans, do you agree with this? American privilege is the real privilege we all share. If you're born in this country, you have won the lottery of life. High-quality civics education is key to preserving freedom for generations to come. So this FLAG organization doesn't really seem like it's that popular. And the resources it offers, I don't really think are that important and would be in high demand. But at the same time, non-profit organization run by Nick Adams, CEO and president. I'm not saying anything about Nick Adams right here, but I am saying having various organizations, charities, and non-profits are often a good way to not pay your fair share of tax. I speculated on other people in America like Mr. Beast, who does a lot of charity work, and he's had people on YouTube who are lawyers telling him how he could dodge tax and stuff like that. I'm always very skeptical of people who run non-profits or run charities when they're seemingly quite wealthy, because as we all know, the wealthy do like to use these things to control their income a bit better and not pay as much tax. Again, not saying anything about Nick, I'm just saying that often this happens. So in conclusion, Nick seems like your pretty stereotypical US conservative grifter with the little twist that he actually is an Australian who seemed to have rose to a bit of prominence because he wrote this book about how hard it was to get a green card to America, and Donald Trump liked that and wanted to change the system to an Australian system. The UK government have spoke about this as well because it's far harder to get into Australia than it is into the UK and probably America as well. But obviously you even saw in that review someone calling him out, and it's pretty clear nearly everything he does is just to pander to a certain group in America. But it's gotten so ridiculous at this point, it seems like this might just be a massive satire, or at the very least, he does not believe anything he says, and he just wants to draw attention to himself because although there is lots of negative attention towards him, I guess we're all complicit in boosting his tweets and talking about how ridiculous he is, because then actual conservatives will find him easier and maybe start buying his rubbish books. Because he tweets just like Donald Trump back in 2016 or even earlier, so maybe that is part of the strategy. But at the same time, you could genuinely believe this. He probably does love Hooters to some extent. Maybe not as much as he's saying, but he probably goes there a fair bit. So let me know down in the comments, what do you think of Nick Adams, USA? And what do you think about his tweets, his persona? Do you think he's for real? I think at the very least, he is a very conservative person. Obviously, he built his career on stuff to do with the Queen and pigeons in Australia and being part of the Liberal Party. So he is a conservative. I just don't really know how conservative he is. But the main point is, still a disgusting guy, because even if he doesn't believe anything he's saying, he's still profiting of making other people's lives, especially marginalized people, miserable. So anyway, that is it for the video. But also, thank you guys so much for watching my video yesterday about the World Cup. I was actually really hesitant to put it out because I thought people wouldn't actually watch it, and it's something I'm very passionate about, like football in general. So I'm glad there's actually been a very good response. But if you haven't watched it, go check it out, because hopefully at this time, England have already beaten the USA by the time you've watched this. I know I will be watching it while I'm editing this video. But again, go check that out. If you watched that video and if you finished this video, thank you so much for checking these out.